it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. And we are zooming in and focusing in today on an excellent viewer question. And that is to really look at the distinguishing features or the difference between kind of codependency or like a people pleaser syndrome. And before we get started, I just want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently donated to the channel. Thank you so much for your contributions and helping to keep the channel alive. It's great to hear from you. So thank you so much. And once again, if you do want to make a donation, there is a little PayPal donate now button on the homepage. So thank you once again. So we are going to roll up our sleeves and get right to it. So this is a great question, and I really want to frame it in the light of how can a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath or someone who is dysfunctional or addicted or has kind of like a mood disorder, you know, they fly off the handle a lot. They're always, having problems. You have to walk on eggshells. These types of people. You know, they might have rampant mood swings, mood lability, and you constantly have to direct your attention to them, you know, listening to see how they're doing. Are they raising their voice? Are they throwing a temper tantrum? You know, so, and how does a relationship with a dysfunctional individual create codependency or quote unquote a people pleaser syndrome when you're in a relationship in close proximity or, you know, growing up with these people in your household, your workplace, your community, your neighborhood, your extended family, or how does this really become set up? Now, when we look at really sort of codependency, it's to understand that you really become, it's when you kind of organize your life around satisfying the needs of another, to the point where you become, it's like a dependency. You become essentially almost addicted to or to them as a replacement for taking care of your own needs. In other words, your life, your role in life, your life purpose becomes pacifying or acquiescing to their needs. In other words, what fills you up, your attention, your happiness, your fulfillment, your roll call, your priority is wondering whether they are okay. And notice how I said okay. In other words, there's a tinge of lack of responsibility or security in the identity or the dynamic of the relationship, which was having this effect on you. In other words, in the state of a codependent, or a covert narcissist who's overly quiet. You know, they have a quiet rage. They're always, you know, kind of hyperventilating, but they're not saying anything. They're not giving you attention. They're not giving you affection. They're not giving you the love. So you're like wondering, you know, what is wrong? So you have to overextend your reach to them, over-obligate yourself, overcommit yourself to their needs, wondering how are you doing, what's going on, what is wrong, essentially. And then so you become hypervigilant to their needs. So their needs, in other words, there's a dependency. In other words, I can't survive if this person is not happy. I cannot survive, you know, for my clothes, food, shelter, love, all my basic needs that, you know, Abraham Maslow, my foundational needs are not there, are not going to be okay. Sexuality, food, you know, shelter, feeling of security or safety, all, you know, you can research the, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In other words, I can't grow. I can't even meet my next stage of development if that person is not okay. So it's kind of like because of their either insecurity, because of their need for supply. When we look at narcissistic relationship dynamics, those individuals who have a sense of entitlement, grandiosity, superiority, they're taking all their energy and love from others. They are the takers, they're the energetic takers. So they need other people as supply, as groupies, as people to give them eye contact, the pat on the back, acknowledgement, here, let me, deliver your food for you with a silver platter. Here's the silver spoon. Here's your newspaper. You have to basically, go to a crawl every single time you're with them, and you feel that you're made to be falsely accused of doing something wrong if you're not attending to them and their needs. What's wrong with you? You need to take care of me. So it's like you're born into a situation, or you're set in a situation where you have to overly identify with their needs, and it becomes really like Dr. Craig Malkin, an echoist. So you become just an echo of their needs. So you begin to feel like a shell of a person, and you kind of feel like something is like a little bit wrong, a little bit off. Everybody else seems to be skipping to my loo and holding hands and walking into the sunset, and yet I'm, not really feeling it. I'm not really feeling that I can pursue what I want or who I want to be, and I kind of feel like held back. So there's this inextricable feeling of like, I think something is wrong, but I don't know what it is. And so this is the setup of the trauma bond and then the codependency, where you become in a role like signing up for a job. You become in that committed on a full-time basis to pacifying or acquiescing to their needs. And so in essence, the codependency, it is to be dependent or addicted. So, in other words, your life is organized around this person's needs. And usually there's a tinge of dysfunctionality in them and then in you energetically. So you become an energetic match to these people who are dysfunctional or who are the takers. And it becomes a state of enabling. In other words, you feel dependent on this or addicted. So in other words, you do not feel right if within your day, your hour, your moment, your week, your month, if you're not taking care of their needs. So there's a sense of over obligation. You're doing things beyond, what is the required duties. You're violating your boundaries. In other words, you're doing too much. Melody Beattie, Women Who Do Too Much. Melody Beattie, The Language of Letting Go, Codependent No More. These are all great books that if those of you this is hitting on a cylinder and is resonating with a fiber of your emotional being, you definitely need to get this material. It is crucial reading, learning, and application for you. So to be then dependent, really to understand it a step further, is to understand that you have then a feeling like I cannot live my own life. I can't, do my own thing. I can't, go out and about because of this. So in other words, you feel that if, their life would fall apart or your life would fall apart if you were to leave, if you were to get a job, if you were to move, if you were to do what you want, you'd be somehow neglecting them. So there's a feeling of obligation, guilt, and resistance to living your own life, yet you feel unhappy about it. So this is a real key indicator that it's gotten to that level and has this place in your life. And then furthermore, it is to understand that even, you can be codependent on a drug or, something else of that nature. So it has this feeling of addiction to it where you become essentially, dependent or addicted to this activity or this person. And then so you tend to repeat all your relationships, tend then to stay at this level, and you wonder why you're attracting similar problematic people, or you find yourself overly attracted to the dysfunctional people, the sick. You feel very comfortable with people who have, major health issues, or addictions, or drug addictions, alcoholism, gambling addictions, excuse me. You then, if then you're then set up with these people who can never get better. In other words, the narcissist who has an insatiable need to overpower and control others to the point where, you're beneath them and then they're, sitting up top. And so then you become then addicted to disappointment. In other words, because eventually in the relationship, you're going to feel a sense that you are disappointed, unfulfilled, unhappy. There's something missing here. And so, excuse me, it's then a feeling that, something isn't right, but you keep, staying there for way too long. You are in dysfunctional relationships for way too long. You don't know how to change it. You become, in essence, addicted to disappointment. So, in other words, you keep setting yourself up for failure. You keep over-obligating. And what does this look like? In other words, you can't just show up to a party as you are. You have to bring the cupcakes, the chips, the drinks. You have to present all these different things because you feel back of your mind they can't enjoy you for your company. You have to displace it and distract it by this very condition of over-obligating or over-giving. They can't just enjoy spending time with you. You have to do A, B, C, D. You have to take them to a doctor's appointment. You have to hear about them and their woes all the time. It's never about you. You can't kind of be bubbly and talking about your interests because it would be to contradict the unspoken terms of your relationship, that, it's always about them. You've repeated the pattern in your relationships. It's become so indelibly marked in your body, mind, and spirit that all you do is talk about them. It's like you can never move up. It's like you're always in the status of groupie and they're the rock star. It's like you are the pawn and they are the king or queen. That is what it is like to feel codependent. It's to feel like that you're very anxious then to interact with people as who and what you are. So then you can kind of get into the people pleaser syndrome, as this viewer stated. So really it's a little bit different. So it's to understand the difference is that, if you are then constantly trying to make sure then that other people are happy, you're always trying to put them first rather than yourself first. You're not filling up your cup. You're always filling up their cup. At Christmas time, you're always giving them the best gifts and you're getting the worst. At holidays, you're always making sure they get the best slices of meat and you get the scraps. You want to make sure they get the biggest brownie and you get the crumbs. I mean, this is like people pleaser syndrome, where you feel like you can't fill up your own cup. You have to always you have to be hyper vigilant to their emotional state. A happy wife is a happy life. Or a happy husband is a happy life. So you become then into a people pleaser syndrome. So it's like a full spectrum, but it's like sensing that, someone else is more important than you. It becomes where they're on the top of the heap and then you're always, somewhere off in the rafters. You're somewhere, off in the valley, and that's where you should belong. So in other words, you can't feel like you can step up to the plate, that you can go and do a workshop, that you can go and leave for a couple days, that you can go and focus. Your focus always has to be on them. So you feel that they're overly important, or their reactions. You become energetically trauma bonded. So in other words, you don't know where they end and you begin. You don't know where you end and they begin. There's kind of an enmeshment going on. There's a feeling like I can't quite define myself. I can't organize my life around who and what I am. That does not feel right. So when we talk really about that, it is to understand that you look at kind of the core of what's driving you. It is to understand that you are not responsible or accountable for this person's emotions, happiness, evolution in life, how far they go. That is oftentimes an error in judgment, or an error in thinking, or flawed thinking, is to feel that you're overly, responsible for the dysfunctional person, that you are somehow having to straighten their path. You're having to straighten their arrow. You're having to, assist them and enable them. In other words, they can never give to you. You always have to give to them. They can never be there fully. There's always going to be some interference. A drug addiction is going to interfere. A sex addiction is going to interfere. A porn addiction is going to interfere. Something is going to interfere in you getting what you need. And you begin to then to just take it like a champ and think, well, that's how it always is. That is like the people pleaser syndrome. And so it's very difficult for you to go out into social situations and hold your own. You're overly attentive to the energy of others. You're always kind of maybe jealous of others, or you never feel comfortable in your own skin. That is to be in the people pleaser. So in other words, you're overly focused or overly attached, overly organized around the needs of others. And then you're very susceptible, very vulnerable to being targeted for people who want to pull your strings, push your buttons, make you the butt of the jokes, make you feel uneasy. So, these psychopaths of the world are like, oh, wow, look at this person who is, eagerly to commit to me because they're not committed to themselves. So it is to understand that you can walk, you can put your headphones on and walk around and attend to what you need. You don't have to always be giving them eye contact, there to deliver their paper, their slippers, their robe, their pipe. You don't have to be servile like that. That is not your role as indentured servant. If you've put yourself in that role, it's time to say no more. It's becoming too much of a people pleaser where you feel filled energetically by, you're always trying to fill up someone else's cup and you don't feel comfortable filling up your own cup. You're afraid that you're going to get a backlash. Oh, look at you. You think you're doing this and this, and you're afraid of the backlash or responses that you might get, and that you don't have confidence in yourself to be able to say, or just what, you've got a problem with me living my life. I mean, you don't have to engage in that fight, but it's like you can't feel that you can just make traction and be a leader and autonomous onto yourself because that has not been, in the narcissistic framework. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, that's not going to be the framework. Your relationship is not going to be organized around you living your life and being happy. It's going to be organized around you being supportive of them and overly engaged in their needs. So always looking at them, always listening to them, always absorbing their energy. And this can become toxic. And so it is very important that you don't become, one of that crowd. You don't become feeling empty like that. You don't become used by them. You don't become just a a puppet, a tool of theirs. You don't become an underling. You don't become a pawn. So it's very difficult then to pull away and say, wow, well, I feel so lost when I focus on my own thing. Well, maybe because that might be just the beginning of the journey and where you need to begin to say, okay, I am comfortable, limiting, and I'm comfortable with my own energetic and emotional boundaries. I'm happy. I am me and I am free and I'm living my life. I am me and I am free and I'm living my values. I am me and I am free and I'm following my interests. And it is okay. I am enough. My interests are enough. My personal growth is enough. And I'm going to go out on that limb. I'm going to expand my journey in those areas. And so it is to give yourself permission to say, I'm, extracting myself. There might be a lot of suction cup, like, you have to pull yourself away and then stop absorbing the other people's energy and begin to understand what it is to become independent and autonomous and begin to know your own energetic boundaries. In other words, catch yourself. Right before you're going to go back, and you're overly attentive to other people and what they need. Begin to ask yourself, catch yourself and say, what do I need? How can I give that to me? How can I cut myself the best piece of steak? How can I fill my own cup? How can I get myself the best brownie? How can I get myself best educated? How can I follow my interests? How can I, even the scales and stop overly attending to the needs of others. It's very important because if this is what has become, it can become very paralyzing. It's very difficult to become self-directed when you're in that state. So it's okay to say, it's okay to start shutting their needs out, because it's very important to say, you know, I'm stopping pacifying other people's needs, and I'm taking and learning about my own. So you need to then, and then what does that mean? I need to, I need to work on my health, or I need to work on my relationships, or my interests, or my spiritual support, or I need to develop a hobby, and begin to fill yourself in with those, and begin to enter into your fullness, your wholeness, and know you can do this. You can do yourself solid. You can back yourself up, and don't look for either negative or positive from this narcissist. And avoid the emotional hovering, the virtual hovering that oftentimes comes with that, where they try to pull you back, or you are then looking for ways to pull yourself back. Begin to understand what that means for you moving forward, and then enforce it for yourself. Enforce that recovery date. Enforce that positive thinking, positive early direction thinking, behaving and feeling, so that you're actually, making inroads, outroads for yourself. You're actually taking action and applying it. Your application quotient is high. We are actually saying, okay, I'm now realizing how this has become an overbalance in my life, and I'm now going to become comfortable, more in a state of balance where my needs are at the helm. I'm at the forefront. I'm at the front. And even though this might feel uncomfortable, I might be uncomfortable that other people might be looking at me, or looking at me different, or I'm going to let those feelings go, because that does not matter. I'm not worried about what other people are thinking about me. I am proceeding and moving onward and upward and forward for me, whatever that means for me personally. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Thank you so much for your viewership, your comments, your contributions, and your interaction. Love you.